You want to get the run on fiber? Well, stick around. We got something. Hey, I'm Mike.
And I'm Twain.
Welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Fit, the podcast where we unpack the science of sustainable weight loss and fitness for those over 40. Oh,
I like
good.
the pun that you did at the start. Get the run on fiber. When you have too much fiber, that's going to cause the runs too, right?
That's right. Just let it, it's a slippery slope, man. Today, I wanted to chat about because we got some feedback, some questions on our Facebook page. For those that don't know, we actually recently created a Facebook page and 40 Plus Fit. You can look us up online. But we got some questions regarding a topic that's probably quite relevant to those in, well, I suppose my age group and above, is this topic of fiber.
Hey, you know what? Like it still applies to me as well, and my age group. And I talk about it like we are such a wide difference, but honestly, I'm pretty close to 40 or so. So
Yeah, I thought we'll tackle this subject today. I mean, for those that
that's
are not really fully aware, I mean, fiber is it's like a broom for your digestive system, where it basically sweeps things along smoothly and it keeps everything functioning efficiently. It's quite an important thing, especially if you're taking in like a high protein diet or anything like that. It's quite advisable for you to really push, well, not push, but to increase your fiber intake accordingly. And
yeah,
so I thought we'll give a whole episode to this one to ensure that
yeah.
any misconceptions or anything, because like generally we do talk a lot about increasing your protein intake when you want to focus on weight loss and all these kinds of things. And it's probably a good thing to bring up this, that when you're increasing your protein intake, you should also be regulating your fiber intake. It's not a case of like just go and eat protein and that's it. There
Yep.
are other components that come into play. So I thought, Twain can elaborate more on this today and give us some golden nuggets that we can take away and hopefully all be wiser
Yeah.
in our diets
Well,
by
I,
the end of
I
this
I can
episode.
I can simplify this episode right at the start right now, which is you're probably not taking enough fiber. Please increase your intake. Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I'll be honest with you because like almost everybody that I consult, right, or rather everybody that I see for consultation, and then eventually, like if they're clients or whatever it is, when we do a little audit of their diet, oftentimes you'll be astounded how many people don't even hit like 10 grams of fiber a day, which is like a really ridiculously low amount. So just from the health perspective, these are like low-hanging fruits that you could easily pluck. Um, yeah, and no pun intended because fruits are pretty high in fiber most of the time. Yeah.
yeah, so I
So
think
where so where are we
we'll
starting
just
with?
call it there.
What,
This is
what,
the short podcast that we have today is you're not eating enough fiber, make sure you eat more. All right. And we'll see you next week.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think we can expand upon it a bit more. I mean, you get different types of fiber,
sure.
right? Is the
Yes.
soluble, insoluble, like what
There's
is the
actually a
difference
third
there? What's
one.
the benefit?
There's a kind of a third fiber component called resistant starch as well. Um, yeah, and it's not quite fiber per se because fiber there's the insoluble, soluble, but it's actually the starch that is trapped within the fiber cell walls themselves. So they call it resistant starch. So it's kind of classed in a sense under the same like fiber category, even though it's not technically fiber. But what it does is it kind of serves as a form of food for a lot of the beneficial bacteria in the gut. Yeah, so it's very similar to like some of the other soluble fiber types as well.
Okay, so if we take
But
them,
before we get too ahead of ourselves, yeah,
yeah, let's go
let's
back
talk
and
about
we say, okay, so we've got the two, potentially three, as you've introduced to us today, different
Mhm.
types of fiber. Perhaps you can
Yep.
name them and just give us a bit more info on each.
Yeah. So the two most popular people know of is the soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Yeah. So soluble fiber, the reason why it's called soluble is because it can dissolve in water, or basically it just absorbs a whole ton of water, and it actually helps lower your blood glucose levels, and the blood cholesterol as well. So this is the very important one, especially if you have like high cholesterol and people tell you to take more fiber. Yeah, you probably want to take more soluble fiber. Okay. Then there's the other type, the insoluble fiber. And this one is more akin to the function which Mike mentioned much earlier. It's kind of like a broom through the digestive system. It doesn't dissolve in water at all. And it helps basically its function just to move the material through the digestive system. And it just bulks up your your waste material, your stool, you know. Yeah. So this helps this kind of generally just prevent you from having constipation or just irregular bowel movements. Yeah, so that's just the quick breakdown there. And then like I mentioned, resistant starch is just the starch that's actually trapped within the fibrous cell walls itself. And so we don't actually break it down and use it, but it actually serves as the energy for or direct energy for a lot of the beneficial gut bacteria.
Interesting.
Mhm.
For me, I always look at the two as soluble fiber is like a
Yeah.
sponge, right?
Hmm.
And then
Exactly. Yeah.
insoluble fiber is like a broom. So there's the
Yeah.
two functions of the how they function in the body.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a great way to look at it because both are cleaning tools, right? They
yes,
help you keep your body clean.
correct, correct.
Yeah,
So
that's a great way.
so the third component you were talking about that you just introduced us to, how does
Yeah.
that play into these two, or is it completely separate? And what is it like if you have to add a cleaning product to that one too? What is it going to be?
I'd, well, that would be the wages that you pay the people who are cleaning the place, I suppose. Because it's just again, just the resistance starch is just the energy and energy source for all the beneficial bacteria in the gut. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's more and it's the interesting thing is actually it's kind of comes about sometimes through it's transformative process like through cooking as well. So it's yeah, it's just one, it's just like a third category of fiber because the soluble fiber components do actually act as for food in a sense for the bacteria in the gut because the bacteria will ferment it in the gut.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we will get to what type of food for each one at a a bit later in the podcast. But for
Yep.
now, let's just get to the matter that most people want to know. How much should we be focusing on regarding your fiber intake daily?
Yeah. So look, like there is a kind of a prescriptive formula for it. You can, and generally what we'll say is every 1,000 calories that you're taking in, you probably want to take around 15 grams of fiber minimum, maybe up to 20 grams. But let's say 15 grams of fiber minimum. So if you're taking 2,000 calories, there will be anywhere about like 30 to 40 grams of fiber. I think practically for most people, men and women, you probably want to be within that range of 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. Like if you're within that range, you're probably good. Okay. Practically speaking, what does that actually look like? I think that's the main question, right? So that's like, the general recommendation of having your what 3 servings of fruit and vegetable a day. I forgot what's the daily recommended now. Is it still 3 or is it 4 or
I,
5 or something?
I'm actually not sure. I just know that you're supposed to have a rainbow colored plate with all different kinds
Uh
of colors. And
yeah.
yeah, I think it's 3 servings.
Okay. I would say that obviously depending on the specific vegetables and stuff that you eat, because some are higher in fiber, some fruits are higher in fiber than others. Um, I think just having those 3 servings is probably barely going to get you to 20, just barely. If at all. Most of the time, it probably get you closer to like 15, 16 grams only. So you practically speaking, and because we want people to be actionable with this, right?
Hmm.
I think a lot of it should be around 4, maybe even 5 servings of fruits and veg. So it's combination. Okay. And then what's a serving? Without going like too technical, having to weigh everything out, essentially just like use your hand size, just say like one fist size worth of vegetables or fruit that's about your fist size is probably 1 serving. And so you need like about 4 to 5 of those to hit your fiber needs from fruits and veg. There are other grains and things like wheat based foods, eating oats, things like this that will give you the additional fiber as well. Even eating whole grain bread, things like this. But those also obviously come with a whole bunch of excess calories as well. So if you're trying to watch your intake, then definitely fruits and veg are going to be really good for that.
Okay. So if you're
Yeah.
eating, let's just look at that practically again quickly. So if you're eating 3 meals a day and you're
Yep.
taking one portion of veggies in each one of those, and then you add in 2 snacks of say an apple and a banana,
Yep.
in the after well in the in the morning, and then maybe some nuts or seeds in the afternoon. That's
Yep.
practically speaking should cover your 25 grams, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Okay.
That will probably land you in that ballpark already. Yeah.
Okay. So let's skip ahead and just look at some of these foods quickly. Like if you're
Yep.
looking at fiber-rich foods, what would you be recommending to the people?
Um, Honestly, I would say the easiest ones are still like veggies, just because
Mm.
the veggies themselves, most of them will have a ton of fiber in them, for very little calories. Like that fiber to calorie ratio will be really low. The other benefit is that because fiber kind of keeps you fuller, and just eating a lot of veg generally keeps you fuller just because of the volume of it. Um, it kind of helps prevent you from getting too hungry too quickly. So I would say a lot of different types of vegetables. Surprisingly, some of the highest ones with per serving would be something like peas, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. A lot of these general, more popular ones. Peas are actually some of the highest. I believe it's close to almost 6 grams of fiber per 100 grams of peas.
Wow.
So 100 grams of peas essentially is about maybe one handful of peas, like you scoop it up in your
Hmm.
hands. And that's substantial, right? That's 6 grams. If you eat three of those, you're already at 18 grams.
If I can just
Yeah.
interject. So with peas though, don't you also get the added benefit of protein from it?
There is some, but yeah, the plant-based protein in there. I wouldn't, I mean, like you have some ancillary protein coming in, and it's probably one of
Not
the
worth mentioning.
better. It's probably one of the better like plant-based sources.
Hmm.
But look, like if you're eating meats and taking protein powder and other stuff, right, where you have like better, more complete, richer sources of protein coming in, that's just incidental. Yeah.
Oh, but
I,
if I'm just talking about like, if you're working at your plate and you're trying to
yep.
decide which ones to go for, like you're mentioning,
Yep.
peas is a great one for fiber, but do
Yes.
you get the added benefit of like choosing that, say, over Brussels sprouts? Do you get the added benefit of protein, or is it so little it's not really worth?
I mean, I would say like, yeah, you would get the added benefit of protein. But it's not significant. It's substantial enough that we can say you have the added benefit, but it's not significant.
Ah, okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like peanut butter, right? The age-old thing. Is it
Yeah.
a protein or is it a fat?
Oh yeah, but
And
that one's pretty clear,
yeah.
like that's a fat source essentially. You just get a
So
little bit of
okay.
protein with it.
So this one, if you're eating it, you're getting the primary focus of it is going for the fiber. And you're saying it's a
Definitely.
very good one. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what about
Um,
others? What about like whole grains?
yeah, whole grains are great as well. Um, Barley, oats, I think these are two of the really popular ones. They also actually have quite a bit of resistant starch in them as well.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. I think those are the two most popular ones already. Most of the
Those
whole grain stuff that you'll get will include some sort of oat variant, some sort of wheat and oat variant.
What about like there's a large discussion when you want to lose weight, right? One of the big
Yes.
evils that you have to cut out if you want to lose weight is white rice, and instead you should go for brown rice. So they say that part of that is because the outer shell has more fiber. Do you see that
Yeah.
from your experience too, or is that more just a marketing ploy?
I think the difference has been overstated quite a bit.
Mm.
It's not wrong. Like you do get additional fiber from brown rice if you just swap it up, but you're talking like maybe additional, if I'm not wrong, it's like 1.9 or 2 grams, for every extra bowl of rice or something.
Wow.
So it's like it's not substantial enough because you still, yeah, it's only like 2 grams, right? So I don't think it's really worth mentioning, like compared to something else that is more fiber rich that you could add.
Mm.
Like I would rather, like if you enjoy white rice, and not everybody enjoys brown rice, right? Like brown rice can be a bit chewy, it can have a certain
Yes.
taste, people don't like it. Like white rice is nice, it's great, So the only difference is just that brown rice has a little bit of fiber more than white. Sorry, brown rice has a little bit of fiber more than white rice. So I rather just eat the white rice, enjoy that, and then have some really nice cooked vegetables with it.
Mm. Okay. And
Yeah.
what about another rice substitute, quinoa? There was a huge rave at one time about quinoa where everybody's like, you must be eating this.
Yeah, I can't remember. Let me just take a quick check here. So quinoa fiber components. I know one of the things that we usually recommend to a lot of the vegetarian or even vegan type of clients is that the quinoa actually has a decent amount of protein to it. So like it's
Mm.
for those that are purely vegetarian, like it can be one of the better kind of choices to make just to boost the protein a little bit more. Um, oh, what? Yeah, 1 cup of cooked quinoa has about 5 grams of fiber. Yeah, I just searched it up. So that's pretty decent, right? That's a good amount. So that's a good option to go for. I do believe nowadays a lot of salad places tend to have like a quinoa salad or something of that
Yes.
nature.
Yes, I just had
Yeah.
one the other day, but
And,
I
and,
still,
and to be honest, I actually kind of like it because a little like it's a little bit slightly crunchy and it has a good texture
Mm.
to it. And yeah, it's fun
I
to
think
eat.
the only issue that most people will have with quinoa is it's a bit on the pricey side.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like if you're
It
comparing
can
it
be.
to the others that we've mentioned here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Some other food sources. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but legumes, any kind of legumes. So all the beans that you can think of, those
Mm.
are fantastic fiber sources as well. Um, Lentils are probably one of the better ones as well. I think black beans, lentils, these are the like slightly higher protein options. Of course, the ultimate holy grail bean is still the soybean, because that's like the um that's the highest protein, most complete protein plant-based
Mm.
bean that you can get, really.
I suppose
And
that's a bit
and it comes
controversial
in
in some countries, right? Wait,
wait, how
I
so?
I
Why?
know
How?
in my country at sometimes some of the people I spoke to, this is my
Uh-huh.
home country, not the country I'm living in. They shy away from soybeans because they don't want to grow breasts.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's this whole thing about people misunderstanding the phytoestrogenic stuff about
Yes.
soybeans. Yeah, look, like let me just put that to rest right now. You're not gonna suddenly shoot up your estrogenic properties just by eating soybeans, okay? So don't worry too much about that, guys. And for ladies, don't rush out to keep like getting more soybeans just thinking it will enlarge your bust size.
Uh, my wife actually makes out of black beans. She makes black bean
Uh,
brownies.
oh wow.
Yeah.
I've never had that. How does it
It's
work?
actually I don't know if it's how brownies are supposed to taste because don't eat much chocolate. But when it comes to these ones, oh, I love it because she uses dark chocolate when she makes it as well.
Yes.
And wow, it just comes out so
Ah.
good that you want like
Oh
one
man,
bite.
you gotta send the recipe over. I'd love to try that.
I'll get it from her and I'll send it through to you. And then
Yes.
the other one that you mentioned earlier that I've actually grown to love now is lentils. And the reason
Mm.
for it is the versatility. Like when you want to up your fiber in something, just throw some
Yep.
lentils in whatever recipe you have. Like
Yep.
we have a South African recipe that's called a bobotie, right? Which is basically just like it's rice, then it's got some beef, and then it's got an egg topping on top of it. There's a few other
Ooh.
things that go inside, but that's the main things that go. And so my wife, in her infinite wisdom, decided, okay, to up my me
Yep.
fiber intake, she's thrown lentils into the beef.
Yeah.
And the beauty part about it, it doesn't affect the taste too much. That you're still
Yes.
eating your usual recipe, but you're just
Yep.
getting this added fiber component to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't really affect, yeah, you're right. It doesn't affect the taste. Like the taste profile of lentils isn't very strong. So
Mm,
it's used a lot to actually thicken up, I think, a lot of stews, right? So it's something you could do if you're making like a simple chicken stew. You put chicken stock in there, you put some your choice of veggies and whatever, and you just dump in a can of lentils. Like my preference is to dump, like I use the canned stuff just because it's convenience is easier. If
mm,
you want to go the extra step, you can always buy the actual lentils itself, pre-soak it, and do all that stuff to prep it. But just for day-to-day convenience and health, yeah, just dump a whole can of lentils or a couple cans of lentils into a chicken stew, and you have like a really nice texture to it. You have chunky pieces of chicken meat, you have, the veggies that you put in there that's all kind of softened up. And then you have this like the very soft, almost curry-like texture to
mm.
the stew, right? That the lentils kind of gives it.
Instead of the
Then the best part
watery.
is you get all your fiber
Mm.
in, you know?
Yeah, so I brought this one up. The reason I brought it up is because
Yes.
before my wife, when I do lentils and
Yeah.
it's like a replacement for rice. And I
Oh, I
hated it
see.
because, as we say, lentils doesn't have much taste. So you have to apply all the taste and try and get it. I
Yeah,
hated it.
yeah,
So I was like, oh, forget it. Let's just push this aside. I don't want to take it in anymore. And so obviously
yeah.
this is a proponent for getting married, wives have wisdom. And yeah, so she saw this and she's now we have in many different dishes, other than just the one I mentioned, we'll just throw lentils in. We also have like a soup, a mushroom soup that we make, and we chuck lentils in there. And as you say, it thickens it up so that instead of having this drinking watery kind of soup, it's like a luscious, thick soup that you can
Yeah, there's some body
consume.
to it, right? I
Yeah.
think that's really what makes that's what really makes like a lot of part. Okay, and this is a small little aside about food science. It's like the reason why things make us feel certain ways, like some foods make us feel, like fuller, some foods like chips and crisps, they seem like we can eat an endless amount of them. It's just like some of the mouthfeel components, that's one huge factor. And so when you have something that's like a bit heavier, a bit more body to it, like a stew, but it actually doesn't have very much calories in it, it can actually give you that level of volume and that mouthfeel that allows you to feel really satisfied. So
Mm.
there are all these little triggers, and sensors that kind of send signals to the brains like, hey, we're eating something pretty substantial. And it really helps. Like these are all little tricks that you could do and include in your own cooking. Number one, to just improve the health quality of the cooking itself, but also to actually control the portions without having to really even try, very hard to consciously control the portions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome. That I touched on some of those points that you just mentioned in an article on the website, on 40plusfit.com, um, called mindful eating and
Mm.
having that mind uh, food connection whenever you're eating. So you're actually conscious about what you're eating rather than stuffing your face, which is what I've done in the past.
Yeah.
So the other two components that we also talk about a lot when it comes to fiber, right, is nuts and seeds.
Nuts and seeds, yeah.
What are your go-tos for that?
Honestly, for nuts, I would say almonds. But I'll be honest with you, I don't eat very many nuts. Sorry, to whoever's listening to this, I don't actually eat very much. I don't have the habit of, okay, I think first of all, I don't have the habit of snacking. And secondly, I don't generally have nuts at home. I don't buy it.
Hmm.
Um, but nuts, if you want to go to, like, my mom loves nuts, so I always buy like different types of nuts for her when I go back home and visit. Almonds are definitely a go-to. Those are really good and pretty high fiber. Um, what else? Seeds, a lot of like generally flax seeds are supposed to be pretty good. But you don't really eat flax seeds like this. But there are other stuff like pumpkin seeds. I think that's a great one. Sunflower seeds are actually not too bad as well. Yeah. I think those are like a couple of the go-tos for nuts. Um, Cashews, maybe broad beans. I think even Brazil nuts are actually pretty decent as well. Oh, walnuts. Yeah, I can't forget walnuts.
Oh, I can't eat walnuts.
They have like a bitter aftertaste, but I actually like it. I like that when you eat a walnut, the taste profile is just so full of different experiences. So when you first eat a walnut, especially if it's salted, it
Hmm.
starts off nice and salty and then feels a little bit rich. And then after that, towards the tail end, you have this like bitterness. So you go on this journey with it.
Yeah, my journey leads me to the toilet.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, every time I eat walnuts, well, that's it. I'm done for the day on the toilet. The other seed that I've started incorporating quite a bit is chia seeds.
Oh yeah, chia seeds. Oh, that totally slipped my mind as well.
So they got quite a high
That's
fiber
the one.
content, or component,
Yeah.
but the beautiful is it comes similar to lentils, is they're so versatile in what you can throw them in. So for me, I have them in my yogurt in the morning. I
Yeah.
just mix in like 2 tablespoons into my yogurt, and then you just eat that with a little bit of muesli and some uh, um, fruit, and it's
Mm,
like you're just eating thicker yogurt. It's quite
mm.
nice. Then my wife, what she does is she has a huge water bottle, and she just
Yeah.
throws chia seeds inside there, and then she drinks
And
that
that's
throughout the
drinks,
day.
drinks. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that's definitely a really good option. I think one other category we haven't talked about is fruits. Just fruits
mm.
and fruits itself. What are some of the higher fiber fruits? Um, the this one is actually quite surprising when I found out about it long ago, and I've been recommending it to clients. It's actually passion fruit.
Oh,
So passion fruit per 100 grams actually contains about 10 over grams of fiber, slightly more than 10 grams of fiber. Yeah, so it's actually pretty good. And it's also a decent mix between soluble fiber amounts, and then there's also like some of the insoluble components. Yeah, but the other easy ones are any kind of like berries. So your raspberries, your blackberries, generally have quite high fiber amounts as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I also find apples quite good.
Yeah, apples with the skin,
With the
especially.
skin.
You've got to make sure you include the skin in. Um, yeah, guavas. So a lot of like apples, guavas, pears, very similar class of fruits. These ones you can't go too wrong as well. There's this there's this fruit that we get in Southeast Asia, right? Called I don't know what's the English term for it, but in Malay it's called jambu air. It's
Oh,
basically like a water pear or something.
okay.
That one's actually pretty high in fiber as well. And it's super low in calories because it's essentially just like slightly flavored water in the form of a pear-shaped object. And it's very crunchy.
I should actually
So it's
look for
great
it.
for hydration, got good fiber, low calorie. Yeah, if you ever have a chance, whoever's listening to this, if you have a chance, to eat it, please, try it out.
But when you said that there's a fruit in Southeast Asia, I thought you were going to say durian.
Unfortunately, durian probably. Wait, no, no, sorry. It depends on the class of durian. I think there's some durians that are decently fibered.
Oh?
Of course, it doesn't outweigh the amount of fat in them, but
Oh, I had no
um,
idea they actually had fiber. So, so
yeah,
how much?
there's some species or types of durians I think that have a bit more, but they tend to be the types that are not as creamy and rich. Also, they have a little bit more. I think a bit more bitter bite to them, and they're a bit skinnier. Like the seeds are a bit skinnier.
Mm.
Or the meat, sorry, not the seeds.
Mm.
The meat of the durian is a bit skinnier. Yeah, a
Oh,
bit more
okay.
scant.
That
Which
one
is
I'll
not
have
what we
to.
what you would like, if you want to eat durians.
Yeah, that one I'll consult with my father-in-law. He's our durian expert in the family.
Ah man,
So if we have
durian.
to look at, like when we have fats are they don't digest as fast as like protein
Oh yeah.
carbs. Would there be an element of fiber in your fats? Like if we're looking at things like obviously we mentioned earlier peanut butter, that one should be right because it's a nut. We just spoke about nuts. But what about like
Yeah.
avocados?
Yeah, avocados are actually really good for soluble fiber. But of course, again, don't forget it has a ton of
Yeah,
fat in it as well.
the,
So
the
so
calorie.
an avocado is actually one of those dual purpose foods that they are rich both in fiber and rich both in like very healthy fats. So again, if you have cholesterol issues, yeah, an avocado can help quite a bit on both fronts because it gives you some healthy fats that helps you to upregulate the LDL receptor activity, and then it also gives you enough soluble fiber that helps to also absorb some of the LDL components in the gut as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a if there was any power food, I guess that would be a decent contender, right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
So what if let's look at a practical example here. I'm a
Yeah.
very busy executive. Don't have much time in the day. I got 4 kids. Um, everything. So my days, I can't really fit in many meals throughout the day.
Mm,
Oftentimes, maybe I skip lunch and I have breakfast and dinner. Practically
yeah.
speaking, how will I be able to get in my full amount of fiber for the day?
I think the first thing you want to do is on the meals that you can eat, because you're so busy, you don't have much time to snack. You want to make sure you're getting in as much uh, fiber from vegetables as possible. We want to take care of the insoluble fiber component a little bit more. Um, and then you can supplement with a other fiber supplement because most other fiber supplements are all soluble fiber components. And most of it will be something like, like the popular brands Metamucil, but that's essentially just psyllium husk. I usually tell clients to just go straight for psyllium husk, and just buy it because it will be cheaper that way. Although in recent years, I think psyllium husk market prices seem to have gone up.
Yeah, because it's gotten a
I'm
bit
not
more
I'm not
popular.
quite tracking the psyllium husk market, but I just noticed every time I'm buying them, I'm ordering them, like the prices seem to be creeping up bit by bit.
Okay,
Beyond
so
inflation. Yeah.
supplementation is definitely a way to go. And if you go
For sure.
supplementation, just look for
Yeah.
psyllium husk. No need to go for all the
Yeah.
fancy brands with 22 fruits and I don't know whatever else the marketing uses nowadays, but just go for the psyllium
Yeah.
husk because that's where you're predominantly getting the fiber from in the supplement.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what you want to do, supplement with that, and then make sure you're getting a ton of vegetables. Vegetables and some of the fruits that we mentioned, like the apples and what have you, right? Like the pears, apples, guavas.
Okay, so take on the psyllium husk. If you're a very busy person who's maybe only allowed to eat 2 meals a day, um, taking the psyllium husk fiber supplement, but perhaps also focusing maybe on a few snacks. Like if you're driving in the car, have some nuts available, have some pumpkin seeds available, or
Mm.
some fruit. If you're in Southeast Asia, what is it again? The jumbo what?
Jambu aya. I
Jumbo
think that's
aya.
what it's.
You
Yeah.
can grab yourself
I
some
honestly do
jumbo aya.
not. Yeah, I don't even know how to spell that, to be honest. Um,
We'll look it up.
I'm not a native Malay speaker, as you can tell.
All right, so you're focused then
Uh,
on getting your fiber through the snacks rather than through the meal, and then you have your vegetables and your 2 meals a day.
yeah. Yeah.
So when you look at it from that perspective, there's no actual real reason that we should be deficient in fiber as what we actually are. It's just that we're not noticing, or how should we say, we're not doing it with purpose because we don't really
Yeah.
know.
I think because a lot of my clients tend to be quite busy as well. I like the exact avatar you mentioned. Even snacking can be quite a challenge. Even having the snacks ready can be quite a challenge. So practically just having the psyllium husk around can be really a really easy way for you to kind of get the fiber in. You put like 1 tablespoon into a 1 liter water bottle. You shake it up with water. You just drink it throughout the day. Um, and then you just refill it up, put another tablespoon in. You can easily get in quite a decent amount of supplemented fiber in there. And then just make sure at each of your meals, like we talked about, you're getting enough vegetables. So at least like 2 servings of vegetables for each meal.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think that covers it quite well regarding on how to actually get the fiber in. But if we can just look at the final thing here is like, what is the actual benefit the person's going to get from increasing the fiber?
Mm. And it's funny though, right? Like I feel like we should have led with that first at the start of the episode. Oh man, so you guys know we're all over the place with this. It really is just shooting from the hip. But the importance of fiber for the body itself, obviously we mentioned the digestive health component because it allows the waste materials to kind of pass through properly. It also gives the uh beneficial gut bacteria or the good bacteria in the gut, enough resource to kind of like feed on and to do their other functions of, keeping our gut flora very healthy. So it's really about purely the digestive health component as the first and foremost thing. The other part that we mentioned, I think briefly mentioned or mentioned a couple times, is the cholesterol management component. So for many people who actually have high cholesterol, and if you have high cholesterol because of a lifestyle issue, because you have let yourself go, this is actually one of the best ways to kind of help like start reducing that cholesterol component and managing it a bit better. So remember, more soluble fiber can help you lower your total blood cholesterol. Yeah. By lowering the LDL portion of cholesterol. Um, then what else? Oh, the other component would be the blood sugar control as well. So when you have enough kind of fiber intake as well, it kind of slows down digestion and absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. So it doesn't spike your insulin so crazily, which can be an issue for, let's say, people who are actual diabetics, like type 1 diabetics. If you're type 2, you're kind of like lifestyle, it kind of depends on the degree to which you are diabetic. If you're really, really, towards the end where you actually are taking medication, sorry, not even just taking medication, but you're actually taking like having to take insulin shots. I've seen that happen before with some people, but that's really far gone, right? Then this is definitely going to be a key thing that you need to include. But even then, even if you're not to the extreme, you're already starting to take medication, yeah, you probably want to kind of allow the blood sugar control to be a bit better So getting some fiber in will really help with that. And the main reason why is honestly just so that your energy doesn't flux, it doesn't go up and down so crazily in your body, in your current state. Yeah. So that's three things I mentioned so far. I think there's a couple more. There is heart health as well, right? So, and this is kind of like, I guess, a piggyback on the cholesterol management component. So high fiber intake generally helps you lower risk of your what do you call that? Lowering CHD, which is your coronary heart disease, and cardiovascular disease, and it does so just by preventing buildup, of all these like plaque components in the arterial walls. And then last but not least, I think the biggest benefit that we recommend to fiber, aside from the health component, is just weight management. Just the fact that if you're eating a lot of fiber-rich foods, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, your volume of food that you'll be eating will be quite high, but the amount of calories you'll be taking will be quite low. Okay, so it can actually help you to manage your appetite, even reduce the appetite sometimes, prevent cravings, so kind of like getting too strong. And yeah, just help keep you fuller from meal to meal, without overeating. And then that really, really helps to quell hunger, which can be the number one thing that kind of derails people from their diet.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I can think of. Any more that I might have missed?
I think you covered pretty much all.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
at least the ones that
that's
I
all.
know of. But you also
Yeah, I
added
mean,
in some. Hmm.
if there are any that I missed out, please feel free to let us know as well.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, with you saying that, we actually do have some questions that we had from some people. So perhaps we can actually just go through some of those. Well,
Okay,
we close out the episode.
sure.
So we have a question from Linda, and she says, "I'm over 50 and getting back into shape after an injury. My stomach gets upset easily during exercise. Could fiber be the culprit, or perhaps could it help?"
Stomach gets upset easily after exercise. I think this one the issue here is we don't have enough information to really kind of answer this very specifically, but I'm just going to assume a few things here, right? So for Linda, if if you are eating a lot before you go and exercise, or if you're eating a meal pretty close to when you're exercising, okay, so let's say like you're eating a big sandwich or something 30 minutes before you exercise. That might not be enough time for it to really digest properly. And then when you go and exercise, it's gonna get upset, right? Your stomach's gonna get upset because the blood's still kind of pooling around the area to help you with the digestion. So I would recommend just like if that's the case, just spreading it out a little bit, eating your meal, a bit further out, or maybe just not even eating a lot before you go and exercise. So that's the first thing that could be causing a stomach upset. The other thing would be, yeah, if you have been consciously trying to take a lot of fiber and you take a lot of fiber right at that meal just before you go and exercise, again, it might even slow down the digestion further. And so that could then lead to, again, the stomach upset happening when you're exercising. Okay, so in that sense, fiber could be the culprit. I would just say spread it out a little bit more, or just save it for after your exercise, or very far removed, much earlier in the day before you exercise. And again, I'm not sure when you're exercising, so we have to kind of take that into consideration as well. Yeah, but just kind of keep it far away from when you're exercising and you should be good. The idea here is that for exercise, you generally want to make sure whatever you take in is not too close to your actual exercise window. So anything like 30 minutes or longer before you exercise is probably a good idea so that you don't get the stomach upset.
Okay. Hopefully that helps you out, Linda. The next one comes from Mark, and I think this one we've actually addressed earlier, but maybe we can just reinforce.
Yeah.
I'm not a big veggie fan, says most
Yeah.
guys, but I know I need more fiber. Are
Uh,
there any easy ways to sneak it into my diet?
hey, you know what, Mark? I think the best thing you can do is try proper deep fried Brussels sprouts. And that might change your mind on on whether vegetables can taste good. But okay, but jokes aside, yeah, I mean we already mentioned supplementation, so that's definitely something you want to put onto your menu, with psyllium husk, or if you want to go fancy, get a Metamucil or something. Those come pre-flavored and whatever. But that's the first option, supplementation. But I think there's actually a lot of other ways to sneak it in as well. And Mike mentioned some just now, right? Which is dropping the lentils into like your stew. You can get fiber in that way. Adding more legumes, not even just lentils, other legumes, eating more beans, things that are not necessarily vegetables that can still be quite good. So you can make your own tacos, I suppose, and just go a little bit more heavy on the beans and the legumes. There's also other ways you could blitz up your vegetables and put them into like a pasta sauce and eat that with your pasta. I think that works very well as well. When you blitz, think about the ways and the creative ways you would get your children to eat. I mean, I'm assuming you have children, right? But let's think about creative ways that we could get children who don't like vegetables to eat vegetables, and that's probably the angle you want to go down. Yeah.
There's an interesting point you brought up there. If I'm blitzing my veggies, am I still keeping in the component of fiber, or is it removing that because?
Oh no, you're still keeping it in. There's no issue with that
Okay.
at all.
Oh, that's good news because I've always been under the impression that I lose it when I do that. I think the reason for that is because you always get spoken to and told that, if you remove the skin of your fruit or whatever, oh, you've lost the fiber component. And for some reason, I probably connected that now. Oh, when I blitz
Oh,
my,
I see.
okay, so it's a good reminder. Thanks for that. I think that one was
No
also
worries.
good for me. All right, we have Sarah. Sarah is asking, I've heard about different types of fiber, soluble and insoluble, but does it matter which one I focus on for fitness?
Uh, Actually, I'll give you the broad answer here. Honestly, no. Like it really doesn't in the total sense of like if you get a good mix of both, you're good. But I do think for a lot of people that are kind of into fitness, they tend to push up a lot of the fiber intake, just because they're trying to get in more vegetables and things like this, which is great. But depending on your stomach, on how your stomach reacts to it, you might want to be a bit more careful about how you increase that dosage of the fiber and also what actual types of vegetables you might be eating. Because for example, have some clients that, they try to increase like the amount of broccoli they eat, for example. And they end up just getting a lot of bloating and stuff, and it kind of affects just not daily function and even just trying to go to exercise on a bloated stomach's not the best. So yeah, so I think the only reason it would matter if you're focusing on like fitness, I am just assuming it means you want to go and work out a lot, you want to go and be really, really active. Just take note of the types of vegetables or the specific foods that if you try to increase the intake, they actually give you a bit more bloating. You probably don't want to eat too much of those, or even just take it out completely and then search for other alternatives to fiber sources. There's tons of vegetables that you can take in anyway. So just slowly work your way down the list, right? And then there's one other thing here I wanted to mention as well, Sarah. So if you're focusing on fitness as well, you probably want to maximize whatever your performance would be in your fitness endeavor. So maybe you're trying to train for marathon, maybe you're trying to go and lift weights, whatever it is, whatever your sporting event is, you probably want to keep the fiber the fiber to the meals that are like further removed from your activity, just because if you're going to go and exercise or work out, you want to have the energy kind of coming to you quicker. So you probably don't want to be taking too much fiber around that timing, because that might slow down digestion, it might slow down the absorption of the glucose components into the bloodstream, which is good for that purpose of glucose control, but outside of the sporting timing or the activity timing, it might not be something that you want. Yeah. So I think that's the only considerations I would say really matter. Anything else, honestly, is not worth your bandwidth.
All right, so don't worry about soluble, insoluble. As long as you're getting the
Yep.
fiber in, that's what's mattering. But regarding
Yep.
the bloating and all that, I find like a sweet spot for me is that whenever
Mhm.
I increase fiber, I increase by a maximum of 5 grams. So
Yep.
what does that mean? That means like let's say I'm getting currently in my daily intake, I'm getting 5 grams of fiber per day. I will maximally then the next time when I increase, I will increase to 10 grams. When I increase,
Mhm.
I'll try that out for like a week or two, and if my body adjusts to that, then I go up to 15 grams. because I
Yeah.
have jumped from the 5 grams to say 25 grams before, and it was a mess,
Yeah.
both logistically and physically. It was a mess.
Okay,
So
we're not going to discuss you with the details, right?
yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But I always came and I experimented quite a bit with it, and I find that the
Mm,
sweet spot when I'm looking to start to increase my fiber intake, the sweet spot was about 5 grams, and you stick to that. So if I've gone up to 10 grams, I stick to that for about maybe 2 weeks. Ensure that my
okay.
body is okay with this. Then after that, I go up another 5 grams, and I'll work my way all the way up to wherever the sweet spot is, depending on
Yeah.
lifestyle and goals, between that 25 and 35 per day. Or, as you've highlighted today here, that's also a good one, is the 15 grams per 1,000 calories. So I might even
Yeah.
consider that now with my daily intake. So thanks for that. All right, and then I
Oh,
think.
guys, and just a quick note here, because since we are talking about increasing fiber intake, so many of you who are listening to this might want to increase your fiber intake. Make sure as you increase your fiber intake, you also increase your fluid intake as well. A lot
Oh,
of times, there are people that actually increase fiber. I've heard many clients try that, and then because initially I forgot to mention, increase your water intake, they just drank the same amount of water, and they actually resulted in like having more bloating and just constipation. They couldn't actually have the bowel movements. And then we realized, oh, okay, I forgot to tell you to increase your water. Okay, please increase your water. And the moment the water comes in, that's it. Okay, easy. Things work again.
yeah.
So make sure to drink. First of all, drink enough water. Most people under drink in the first place. And then secondly, if you're increasing your fiber intake, drink even more.
I think that's coming back to our cleaning analogy earlier, right? You've got your sponge, you've got your broom,
Oh yeah.
but usually there's a component where you actually wash away the stuff with the water at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's very important. Yes, I also forgot to mention that one. Your water intake needs to increase with your fiber intake. And I think the final question for today is coming from Maria. And I think we might have addressed it actually, but just in case you have anything else to say. I'm worried about feeling bloated with all this extra fiber. Are there any tips to avoid that?
We should have waited for this question before
Yeah,
we talk all that
that's true.
gradual progressive increase. But yeah, I mean that's the main thing, right? Progressively increase the amount of fiber. Take note of where you're introducing the fiber from so that you can reliably assess whether or not the food type, the particular vegetable that you're taking in, or the particular, I don't know, bean or whatever it is kind of making you bloated. And then yeah, and then just kind of work your way down the list and try out different sorts. Yeah. So that's essentially it. Just like add slowly and remove the ones that cause you actual bloating or actual digestive issues.
Okay. So I think what we're looking at is that fiber plays a crucial role in fitness. By it aids digestion, regulates blood sugar, and it keeps us fuller for longer.
Yeah.
Um, it's also important to remember that most people, as you say, when you speak to clients, are getting less than 10 grams of fiber per day in their daily
Yeah.
intake, where the recommended day amount is 25 to 35. So it is an underused or how should I say, it's something that people need to focus on in order to increase when we talk about a healthy diet.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
also spoke about, having the importance of incorporating a variety of fiber-rich foods into your diet. Um, Making sure that you're getting all these different kinds, not just from the fiber itself, but you get the nutrients from the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the legumes, the nuts and seeds. And then we also just touched on the avocado being such a good substitute, well, not a good substitute, but a good food because it hits so many of the markers. It hits the fat intake, it hits the good fat intake, it hits the fiber and all these kinds of things. And so it's a good thing for people that are listening. I think the first step to take away from here is actually to go and track how much fiber you're taking in.
Yeah.
If it's less than 10 grams, let's see how you can gradually increase that fiber. My suggestion is always only go at a maximum of 5 grams per week, per 2 weeks. See how your body reacts. If it does well, go up another 5 grams and try and work your way to that magic marker of 25 to 35 grams. And then I think we spoke also just touched on for those people that are very busy lifestyles, maybe look at a bit of supplementation using psyllium husk, maybe some nuts if you can, things like that. But try and focus on healthier snacks throughout the day, just to ensure that you're still getting. And then the final all important one is that if you're increasing your fiber intake, you increase your water intake for the day. Does that pretty much about cover it?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, and just don't forget, like, again, re-emphasizing the importance of why you need to get the fiber in. It's really health, okay? Because it's such a small thing that pays off such huge dividends to protecting you, protecting your heart, protecting you from potentially any kind of lifestyle disease. Yeah. So definitely do it. Can't go wrong.
Awesome. All right, then we just want to say thank you to all for listening. We hope you found this information helpful. If you'd like to learn more, you can check out our website at 40plusfit.com, or you can follow us on our
Facebook page.
you can follow us on our newly created Facebook page, which is 40 Plus Fit. And until next time, stay strong, stay healthy, and keep that fiber flowing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, guys.